2 days ago was not just February 8th. On the Jewish calendar, it was Tu B'Shvat, our holiday which celebrates the birthday of trees, the beauty of the natural world. On my birthday, last month, I received a birthday card which said, "In honor of your birthday, a tree has been planted in Israel." The inside said, "Your day to water it is Tuesday." I'm looking at the Newbergers in the back. We have planted hundreds of seedlings around this time of year in Sunday school, religious school. This is the holiday. It was a full moon, by the way. Always 2 means 15, which is the 15th of the Hebrew month, which means it's always a full moon. And what's so neat about Jewish time is exactly a month later, it's Purim, around a day off, but you'll see almost a full moon on the 14th of Adar, Purim. And then Purim means it's exactly 1 month until Passover, which is also a full moon. But Tu B'Shvat, February, January, celebrates the birthday of the natural world, the beauty of the world. Some trees, like giant sequoia trees, I'm told, have endured for hundreds of years. That is because they take a great deal of time to reach their full growth. And similarly, the rabbis teach us, we must understand that it takes time for us to develop our spiritual strength and to reach our maturity. Maybe not hundreds of years, but certain things simply cannot be hurried. For instance, looking at these beautiful children, it takes close to 9 months for a healthy baby to develop. There are 24 hours in a day, and no force on earth can hurry or delay that cycle. It takes Shiva, a full week, for a mourner to accept the fact of a death. A full month, Shloshim, to accept the loss. And a full year, Yortzeit, sometimes longer, to adjust to loss. And no pill or scheme can shorten these periods. Shabbat is our weekly check-in to remember that we should have time on our minds rather than time on our hands. To remember that each day is a gift, each moment is precious, and that time itself can be holy. So the link between physical growth of Tu B'Shvat, of the natural world, and human spiritual growth is clear. Like the most beautiful trees on this planet, it takes time to grow spiritually. And the way we grow is taking our prayers and giving them concrete form. And that's why it's also fitting that it is on this week that we read the 10 Commandments from the Torah portion known as Yitro, Deuteronomy 18:20. Now, in the list in Exodus, what follows the 10 Commandments is a long, seemingly boring, detailed list of guideposts, laws, ordinances. We get these lofty 10 Commandments, and then what follows, these are all the rules. Why? Perhaps the greatest medieval Jewish commentator of all, Rashi, helps us understand why all these high ideals of the 10 Commandments followed by a long list of rules. Because great ideas don't matter much unless they take concrete form. It's pointless to talk about compassion unless we take practical steps to help the poor. And 36 times, more than any other mitzvah in the Bible, we're told to be kind to the stranger, to protect widows and orphans, to do daily deeds of loving kindness. Among my prayers this week were prayers against our numbness and indifference to those beyond our own families, faith, and people. You see, because Shabbat tames our drive to acquire. And it brings up our drive to defend, if you will. Our family, of course, instinctively should matter most. But we must also, I would say, we can't always, but I would say, in addition to those two drives, we must also synchronize those two drives with two other drives that I learned from a professor who died 3 months ago. When I lived at the Harvard Business School, before I became a rabbi, I was at the Kennedy School, headed into public service. I just switched to Jewish service. There was a highly respected professor of organizational behavior named Paul Lawrence, who had a problem with a leadership model that was current in the late 80s. Some of you may have heard of it. The model was called agency theory. It argues that a manager's prime responsibility is to work in the best interests of his shareholders. And you don't think first about customers, suppliers, neighbors, the environment. And Professor Lawrence, who died in November, he said that to maximize just one of those things doesn't make sense. Why? Because, he said, there's more to human beings than just making money. This is a Harvard Business School professor. He had a visceral reaction to this agency theory. So he spent the last 20 years seeking a better theory of human behavior. He read books on religion, history, science, and after years of study, his new theory, which I buy into, suggests that all human beings are motivated by 4 independent and innate drives. Yes, the drive to acquire, that instinctive push to obtain things necessary to ensure success, continuity, even reproduction, the drive to acquire. The drive to defend, which is really that desire to ensure that what is acquired is not lost. But then there's the drive to comprehend, that human need we all have to make sense of life and the world around us. And what's the 4th drive? The drive to bond, the push to connect and relate to others. What's Professor Lawrence's big insight? That our behavior is a result of our brain's attempt and our heart's attempt to maintain a balance among these 4 drives. Now, it's a grand theory that manifests itself in just about every aspect of human behavior, even the drafting of the Constitution. We need to use our creative capacities, says Lawrence, that's the drive to comprehend, to design a government that can strike a reasonable balance between individual property rights, drive to acquire, and the common good, that's the drive to bond, while guarding us against external and internal enemies, the drive to defend. At the opposite end of the ethical spectrum is what we see happening not just in the economic crisis with people doing bad things, but bad apples with an outsized drive to acquire and no moral conscience due to a lack of the drive to bond and think of other people. The best results, not only in business but in society, are when all 4 drives are operating and being fulfilled simultaneously. So he used this model, and I could give a 30-minute sermon on this, perhaps someday I will, to explain, for instance, how the home improvement giant Home Depot got a wake-up call from its smaller competitor, Lowe's. Now, forget about what you know about business. I don't follow the stock market. I don't know anything about business, but I'm interested, as I was when I lived in Boston, in human behavior. It's what drives me to religion. Home Depot embarked on a campaign years ago that emphasized individual store performance, putting the drive to acquire over the employees' camaraderie, the drive to bond, and saw no growth, by the way, at that time when the world wasn't a mess, in the company's stock price. Lowe's employed a holistic approach to satisfying their employees' emotional needs through its reward system, culture, management systems, design of jobs. And at the time that Lawrence explored this, they gained ground. Now, he died less than 3 months ago, but I want to close by emphasizing how I think his insights about the 4 drives are what lead to spiritual growth. We're not trees. We're not going to grow like Tu B'Shvat, but we can harmonize our inner drives. Judaism in general, and Shabbat in particular, is the time to resynchronize and harmonize our drives. The drive to acquire and the drive to defend often overshadow our innate needs for meaning and connection. That's the beauty of Temple Israel. That's the beauty of Judaism. We discover that there are reasons to live that even reason cannot comprehend. Love, family, goodness, beauty, tradition, the world and all its fullness. And we discover also that living alone isn't living at all. We're born for community, to bond with others, whether within our own families or in this big family named Temple Israel. Spiritual growth is not that different from the growth we celebrated 2 days ago on Tu B'Shvat. Like the inside of a tree with its rings revealing its time on earth, our inside rings are the connections we've made with the people in our lives, the family members we love, the friends we've bonded with, the faith which connects us to a world and reality larger than our own small selves. And the realization that as strong as we may sometimes feel, you may feel strong. I tell kids this all the time. You may feel strong when you're alone, but we're so much stronger together, harnessing all our drives, all 4, for good, for sanctifying life, every second, every minute, every hour, every day. And let us say, Amen.